The Orange Zone pregame show is sponsored by Kerner Ford.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Orange Zone. Jonathan Singh alongside CNY Central Sports Director Tommy Sladek. Good to see you, brother.
What up? Good to see you too, man. We both had the sweatshirts on. We didn't even have to talk about it.
Oh,
It just felt like a casual Thursday.
it's the Orange who have lost 2 straight games. Got to get back in the win column, buddy.
Up at half in both of those too.
Yeah.
And that's what I think stings the fans so bad about these 2 games is they were both ones that they were in it for a while. And then the second half, the team needs to figure that one out, man. It's just not the 40 minutes of basketball just isn't there right now. It just seems like they're getting gassed. Seems like they're just hitting that wall, and it's coming against good teams. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. Tommy, I mean, you were
top 10,
all over.
yeah.
You were all over the Georgetown game. What are 2 or 3 things that really stuck out to you, man?
All right. Well, number one off the bat is we finally, I really think the fan base and anyone watching that game saw the potential for the bench productivity from these guys.
Yeah,
I mean, and it was in perfect fashion because it was Frank Anselm, Samir Torrance, and Benny Williams. It was as if they had back-to-back-to-back buckets.
Right.
And it was so refreshing for everyone that was kind of like, it's really just been this starting 5. And so to see them come in and make that impact and very much a part of that 10-point lead, dude. And then only Frank came in that second half for a few minutes. And that's been one of the biggest discussions and things I've seen in the comments and with the radio shows is people wanted to see more of them. And you could feel it. You could just say to yourself, okay, it seems like the starting 5 is getting a little gassed.
Right.
Why not bring in the bench?
Listen, teams that are deep, top to bottom on the roster, go far. Depth
It's true.
in 2 places. And when you get productivity off the bench, I mean, no coach will ever complain about that. And that gives the starters some rest, whether it's for a quick TV timeout or, 5 minutes on the bench, catching their breath and rehydrating. So bench productivity is something we're going to look out for against Lehigh. But, Tommy, I think we all know this is a must win for SU. They're 5-5 right now. Don't want to drop to 5-6. Don't want to lose another on home court. But I think SU has the advantage here. Lehigh's not that good.
It's a 1-8 team. And don't get me wrong. Anytime you're playing Division I anything, you can't overlook an opponent because guess what? Those players at those schools were recruited to a D1 program for a reason.
Exactly.
They're all sick. If you think about it, this is something I try to remind people sometimes. Any guy on those teams, any guy that is even on the bench for Lehigh is probably a hometown legend, right? Like absolute legend from their high school. No, not me. But they can all hoop. And Lehigh is 1-8. They are not a hot team this year, and you can't overlook them. But end of the day, this needs to be a win for Syracuse, and hopefully it gives them that opportunity to get guys like Benny in there to see more than just 5 minutes of playing time at a time, and just kind of have that flow of being like, okay, I'm in the game for the next 15 minutes, especially for a freshman just to have that experience, man. It's huge. It's huge.
You got to get the legs moving. You got to get the juices flowing. Tommy, take out your notebook. I got some notes for you here. Syracuse 4-0.
I got it out.
All
ready,
time.
I'm ready. I'm like, this is my dad. That's how you put something in front of his face.
That's gonna be us pretty soon. Okay.
Oh, I know. I should be making
Syracuse 4-0 all time against Lehigh. Okay, going for win number 5. And the last time these teams played, Tommy, 2015. 2016, we were still in college having a good time. SU won 57-47. So the Orange look for 5 straight wins against Lehigh.
And that 2016 year was the last time that SU had 5 non-conference losses at the start of the season. Didn't make the tournament that year, but it's not the start people are used to. People aren't used to this team being 5-5 before you really start getting into the crux of the conference schedule.
Listen, man, this could be a turnaround game for SU. Maybe a game where they just pick up some mental and physical momentum. Like, hey, we can shoot the ball. We can pull up from long range. We can, stay strong down low and get those boards late in the game and early in the game when they count the most. And so, Buddy Beiheim, he's been leading the way for the Orange as expected, just over 17 points per game. Tommy, I mean, Buddy Beiheim is a guy who's high on your list.
For sure, and he's a dude that's been quiet for the past few, right? These teams, as we've talked about, I believe on last week's Orange Zone, is that Jimmy Beiheim was a team leading scorer in that Villanova game because when he was one-on-one at the top of the arc, there was no help defense once he got past his defender. They literally refused to pull the guy off Buddy on the wing. And with a team like Lehigh that chances are, height-wise, is going to have trouble matching up with, because people forget Buddy's 6'6", dude. Like a lot of twos out there are not going to be that height to get a hand in his face. And so I think this is going to be a good opportunity for him to just get up shots again. Get up shots
Get him up.
and find that. Yeah.
It's so funny. We were laughing about it, Tommy, after the Georgetown game, the post-game press conference with head coach Jim Beiheim. He was so bland and static. But he had
the audio didn't help from the feed we were pulling off.
He was just like,
it just made it.
Man, we lost.
Just made it worse.
At the end of the day, how amped up could you be when you lose? But so a big one for SU. They look to snap their 2-game losing streak on Saturday.
Yeah.
Tommy, I think the talk of the town right now is the Syracuse women's basketball team. They're 7-4, dude.
I did not expect that this would be the conversation we'd be having before Christmas, especially. They're on a 5-game winning streak. This team was 2-4 to start, right around where we were expecting.
Sure.
When you have a new head coach and only 3 returning players, the rest quite literally brand new to the 3-1-5. And so to see what they've been able to do, to see what Von Reed's been able to do with this group of new players is remarkable. I'll just come out and say it. And it's an interesting feeling given some of the fans' reactions to the Von Reed hire, a guy that was with this program for 10 years, including the years that a lot of these players and really this private investigation found there to be this bad culture here, that he was here a part of it. And of course, when he was hired, he wasn't answering those questions. But I did find it interesting that the first chance we got to talk to the new players is they said, "You're really going to like Coach Reed." They seem to all really get behind him, and clearly they bought in and are sipping the Kool-Aid because again, you have brand new people from all over the country that are meshing as one, all 5 starters in double digits right now. And they're fun to watch.
You have unfamiliar suspects doing big things. And earlier this week, we spoke with Von Reed, and we brought that up. And we also brought up how hot his team has been during their 7-game homestand.
You got some players that want to be able to accomplish some things, and they're coming at the end of their career. So if you look at each individual story, I think that there's a chip there for pretty much every player, and they're all putting it together and focusing and using it as a team.
We also spoke with Tisha Hyman. Tommy, she's been great, and she says she's so comfortable playing under head coach Von Reed.
One of the best weeks college basketball has seen this year, let alone the past few, with that Ohio State game.
For sure. I mean, we weren't ranked, and then it's all new players. Nobody expects us to even win a game, so we definitely play with a chip.
What else?
We have football, dude. We have early signing period for SU. 13 players officially on Wednesday. Small list. And
you know who's on this list? Sorry to cut you off. You know who's on this list? Maximilian Von Morberg.
The kid from Wales, right?
Hunter from Australia that's never played American football
in
his life. He is from Wagga Wagga, South Wales.
Nice.
He's never played a down of American football. Dino Babers says he's comfortable with Maximilian's ability, and he's seen enough good things on tape to be convinced he gave the kid a full ride scholarship to play for the Qs, Tommy.
This dude's got Patty Casey energy, man. Like the fan base is just going to love him immediately just because of his background. I love a story like this. And a lot of the times that you could end up with a serious just legend on the field when you start pulling them from halfway across the world. But when I'm looking at this as a whole, John, these 13 guys, before we kind of break it down a little bit, 67th overall on 24/7 Sports in terms of the recruiting class. That is the lowest in Dino Babers' time here. Surely nowhere near that 2018 incoming class he had, but they haven't really even been above 50. So for people kind of expecting these really high expectations coming into this year, this offseason, it's not really been there for Syracuse, especially since they joined the ACC. And in that ACC rankings, that number 67 is 13 out of the 14 teams. So they're down normally where they are. But as you and I know, the rankings, obviously numbers mean something, but it's normally the 1, 2, 3 stars that end up in the Super Bowl, right? And you look at a guy like Sean Tucker, he's a 3-star.
Yeah. By the way, a Daily Orange reporter asked Dino Babers yesterday, will Sean Tucker return? And Dino Babers looked at us very confidently and said, yes.
Oh,
Sean will be back next year.
Let's go.
Oh, no.
Pleased.
Like as the college football season is still going on. So a guy like Sean Tucker, Tommy, we spoke about this. He can wait until after the national championship to pick where he wants to play next if he wants to leave. He has that leverage because he's so good.
Sure. Well, as we talked about, I think there is a little bit of a bonus to the NIL, and what that's brought is that we've already talked about that Syracuse is a destination in terms of that, because compared to a school like Villanova basketball that's in the Philadelphia market, that's a pro sports town. End of the day, sure, people pay attention to Nova, but there's a lot else going on in the athletic sphere, where Syracuse, people treat the Orange like they would the Eagles, Giants, you name it, in football and basketball. And so for a guy like Sean that's already established himself, we talk about with Buddy Beiheim, I think there's absolutely a draw for him to stay simply because of the name he's built in a college town.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's go to Dino Babers, Tommy. I asked him earlier this week, what's the pitch when you go to a player's house and you speak with the player and the families? What's the pitch? Why Syracuse University?
Most of them already want to come here. But again, you guys, we've got something that's special. We've got something that's extremely unique. I mean, this education is no joke. It really is. And I think that these players come here for the education. I think they come here for the dome experience. They see the crowds. They know that the community and the student body is involved. And I think they like some of the coaches in the room as well.
So Dino talking recruiting, and he's still busy, man. There's not really an off season for this guy, especially when you're popping around all over the country trying to get big names. And one of the ones he was able to squeeze in, which hands down was the name that jumped off the paper, Braylon Oliver, goes by Bo, transferred from Louisville, was there for 1 year. Coming out of high school, this man was originally committed to Georgia. And then Alabama started having interest, and he was like, hold up, I'm going to pull out a little bit. Ends up going with the Cardinals, doesn't see time there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, is Syracuse in a still situation where they get a D-back that could be just another Deuce Chestnut, Garrett Williams that gets it done early? John, do you think Syracuse has a chance to get ahead and finally break out of that last little chunk in the ACC if they put more resources into the transfer portal? Is that something you've thought about? Curious.
Yeah, not so much. Honestly, I'm a big advocate of games are won and lost on the field. You can recruit all you want. At the end of the day, do your players get it? Do your players respect the system? Are your players in sync with each other? Another guy who sticks out to me, this is in my opinion, the biggest name on the list, but Quinn Allen. He was the
Gatorade player of the year, baby.
Here in New Jersey. I mean, this guy is a monster, Tommy. Guy's a savage. And we also got to go back to Dino Babers. I asked him, Tommy, have you been to any local high school football games in central New York? I had to ask that question. Here's what he said about it.
I did not get out to a local game this year, which was disappointing, but I have visited local coaches.
We out. Orange Zone pregame show, Kerner Ford. Thank you, Kerner Ford.
Thank you, Kerner. You guys are awesome. Go buy a Ford.
There you go.
The Orange Zone pregame show is sponsored by Kerner Ford.